Wow, I feel like an artist coming up on stage now. I've never felt that feeling before. My name is Christopher. I'm from Sweden. I am a so-called Future and Strategy Analyst for SEB, one of the biggest banks in the world, right? Just kidding. It's a very small bank. And this is a self-proclaimed title. I just made it up a few years back, and my boss said yes, so that was very good. So my mission within SEB is to create future scenarios for how our entire society might change in the coming decades in order to create strategic roadmaps for SEB. And I have written a report that I will distill during 30 minutes. I hope 22 minutes it says here, I don't know. And the report is the embodiment of many years of research in my past. I have been an equity research analyst, analyzing the manufacturing sector, but also the consumer sector and the technology sector. And I've been quite in many sectors. I've been all over the place. And now I am an analyst for SEB, not for SEB's customers that I was before. There's a lot of talks here, so I cannot hear my brain talking to myself. A couple years back, I asked myself two questions. The first question was, why aren't we able to lower carbon emissions on a global scale? We have the global aspirations for it, but we cannot do it. We're increasing carbon emissions every year. We're now at 57, 58 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalents, and it's still increasing. So why aren't we able to do that? The second question is, what would it take for us to lower carbon emissions? What's the solution to the systemic pollution globally? The answer to the first question is that it's all about incentives. If humans are incentivized to do something, then we will do it. If we are not incentivized, we will not do it. If we are incentivized to run a marathon, that's what we might do. If we're not incentivized to run a marathon, we're never going to do it. The incentive today on a global scale is to sell more products. Numbers of volumes of products is the name of the game. If you're not selling more products as a CEO or a salesperson or a CFO or a management team, you will not be a CEO anymore after a few years. That's the name of the game. Entire industrial regions, countries, companies are incentivized to sell more products. So that is the answer to the first question. Now, the second question was, what would it take to change our ways? I believe that we need to change the core incentive to change our ways. And I believe there is a paradigm shift coming in the coming 5, 10, 15, 20 years, where we're not selling only products as units, but also selling them as a service. We rent out our products. We're jumping into an autonomous car that takes us from point A to B. That's a service. That's not an ownership anymore. We don't have to own the products. And if a manufacturing company starts selling a product as a service instead, that company wants that product to last as long as possible because that's the economic thing to do. Today, we're very far from that. So I think this business model change from ownership to usership is the core incentive change that we need. And the key ingredient in making this business model possible is AI. I believe that all products in society will become robots in the coming 20 years. Maybe not our clothes, maybe not our underwear, but a lot of products in our society. For example, the chair will become a robot. It will understand how many people are sitting in that chair. And when that is possible, you can charge the number of seats. When a car can drive itself, you can monetize the kilometers in a whole different way than before. When a robot can create a utility that you previously did yourself, it increases the likelihood of you pressing play on that robot product. And for the investors here and for the incredible entrepreneurs in this room that are very prevalent in understanding software as a service, this is a phrase for you guys. SaaS is going physical. And we've seen the play button taking the digital world by storm in the past 20 years, from CDs to libraries, from CDs of music to libraries of music. I think I have a lot less time than I was promised to, so I need to take this in a very high tempo. I've written a report on this theme. It was supposed to be 50 pages, 50, but I couldn't stop, so it got to be 365 pages, one for each day. So you can download it with the QR code at the end of this session. Here it is. So it explores what the potential impacts on society might be if we start selling products as a service instead of units. I want to start my real presentation, because so far it's been only an introductory, with a photo here, a core message that I want you guys to take with you after this session. It's a horse, and now you're wondering, what in God's name are you doing on stage depicting a horse? And why is it golden? And why is it on wheels? And why does it have a horn? I believe that this business model change is the change in incentives that we need in order to change our pollutive global economy. Because when a manufacturing company starts selling a product as a service, that manufacturing company, that board, that management team, that CEO wants that product to last as long as possible. So that is a Trojan horse for sustainability. That's the message that I want to depict to you. It's golden because it's worth a lot of money. So you should invest in this, you should create companies in this theme, and it's also comprised of building blocks that depicts disruptive innovations that come together. It has a horn, just like a unicorn. I believe that this theme will give birth to the next generation of business unicorns. So far in time, we've had a lot of business unicorns in the digital world, not in the physical world. I'm saying here that in the physical world, we're going to have more business unicorns than the digital world in the coming 20 years. That's the message of this slide. That's from the producer's standpoint, kind of. From the customer's standpoint of using a product, this icon embodies the holy grail of creating a customer value, solving a problem. Over the past 300 years, we've gone from self-reliance to building small shops, easing the pain points of consuming products. Then we started building big department stores, big chains, big shopping malls. So we just had to go to one place and buy a lot of the crap, the stuff, not the crap, that we need. Then 25 years ago, we increased the level of simplicity in our lives with e-commerce platforms. We don't have to stand up from our couch anymore. We just have to click that add to cart button. But that's not the end destination. I believe just pressing a button is the end destination. Press that play button and perform a utility for me, please. Car, white good, even shoes, whatever it is. The play button is the holy grail end destination, I believe, in the manufacturing and consumption sector. And in 20 years from now, or 30, or something like that, I believe that 20% of commerce will go through usership business models, the play button. Today, it's basically 0.1%. And this type of journey would be copying the journey that e-commerce has made over the past 20 years. E-commerce has taken 20% of commerce over 20 years. So I believe that we will have a new type of animal, a dimension in the commerce landscape, and that's pressing play. I've made all of these photos myself with an AI, by the way. Aren't you impressed? Just kidding. I don't have time to go through all my slides, I realize now, because I only have a few minutes left. But I've never been a history buff. I thought history was quite boring. But over the past 2-3 years, I've taken a quote by heart by Winston Churchill. The longer back you look, the farther ahead you can see. So when I made history about the future, it made history fun for me. So I have created a massive Excel file with hundreds of disruptive innovations over a timeline of 300 years, and I've learned that things are always moving, things are always replacing the old, and things are converging all the time. Disruptive innovations are converging all the time, and the pace of change is ever increasing. And to distill all of these learnings into three selected learnings, you get these three learnings. This is the first one. Something new always replaces the old. Sometimes we feel like we've reached an equilibrium in our professional lives or in our consumer lives, whatever it is. But there's always something lurking, replacing you, replacing your company, replacing your profession, or replacing a product. That is super, super important to understand. So don't neglect history. Learn from history that something is always trying to replace you. The second one is the convergence level between these disruptive innovations is always increasing. 2 years ago, I don't think anyone, some of you have had tried an AI application. But now, today, every one of you have tried an AI application, ChatGPT, for example. And the level of convergence between AI and the digital world, and also in the physical world, is at a pace we've never seen before. It took 50 years for our human family to burn coal in a better way, to smelt iron in a better way, to create mechanical tools and make the steam engine and put a locomotive on a rail and then make communication between cities possible. It took 50 years for that to happen. Now, it's only taken 10 years to make the car autonomous. So it's the pace of innovation is at a pace we've never seen before. And sometimes the level of convergence, something new replaces the old, meaning the number one and number two, connect to each other and create a recalibration effect of our entire society. We've had three major recalibrations: first, second, and third industrial revolutions. Now we're standing ahead before the fourth industrial revolution. But also, when trying to understand the past, it's very good to have a framework. So I've created a framework in how to understand the past, the present, and the future. So I've dissected our economy into 5 parts, into 5 elements, just like our Earth has its 5 elements. How we make physical products, make physical activity, how we power economic activity, how we move, how we speak, and how we pay. So you can basically take any type of disruptive innovation, any type of sector, any type of company, and place it into one of these 5 boxes. And it dawns on you that they connect in various ways over time, but these connections, they rhyme, so you can learn from history. There's only one of these elements, the speak element, that has become an internet of the underlying input variable. Because when a newspaper or a CD transformed into ones and zeros, the input variable, meaning information, got to be renewable. The marginal cost for the input variable of the speak element went down to near zero. That changed the business model for the speak element. A lot of companies are now selling software as a service instead of a Windows CD or a Photoshop CD. So what happens when the other input variables for the other 4 elements also becomes near zero marginal cost and renewable? I believe that something will happen in the lines of the speak element. I'm focusing a lot on the make element, renewable natural capital, and the move element. I believe that these 2 will become internets in the coming 20 years. And by the end of this century, we will have 5 internets. And that will reshuffle our whole way of understanding economics, change macroeconomics from the core. If you regard all of the news items that are constantly bombarding our brains, you get crazy. And it's very difficult to see the combination effects. But if you have a framework, if you look back in history, you're better equipped to knowing the future, or at least how disruptive innovations converge into each other. I believe there is a domino effect coming for a next big recalibration of society. It starts with smart sensors with a microprocessor in it, which is paired with AI, and the AI models now are in an exponential improvement curve. When you place smart sensors and AI models onto a physical product, for example, the car, something happens, and that is the product can perform the problem for you. You don't have to drive it yourself. You can just jump in and press that play button. And I believe that we will have an explosion of interest and investments into renewable materials over the coming 20 years, just like renewable energy over the past 20 years. Renewable materials is still a very small sector. So this is the domino effect that I believe will take form in the coming few years. But back to the present now. We're now 8.05 billion people, and the name of the game is to spin more natural capital, natural resources, onto our customers, more volumes than the past year. If you don't do that, your market share will go down, and you will not have your job anymore. It's spinning so fast right now, and our global economy is emitting 57, 58 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalents. And I have no idea how we're going to reach net zero in 50 years. Tell me how to do that, and I will listen. But I have no idea how we're going to do that. We're now at 15.4 degrees on a global average for our planet Earth. We were at 14.0 100 years back. Now we're at 15.4. The Paris Agreement has a starting threshold at 15.5, meaning 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial times. This year, we are going to cross that threshold. And United Nations' best estimate is for 17 degrees by the end of this century. So we're now in waters we've never swam in before, and the waters are just heating up all the time in an exponential pace. Our global economy is 93% linear or depletive. Everything we produce and put into our economic machine, it depletes into nature, landfills, even our bodies. 7% is circular or regenerative. So recycling is a big part of that circular share. Recycling is like a prescription drug. You put it into your body, it works for 6 hours, and then it's out. Recycling is the same way. You make a product, it reaches its lifespan maximum, and then you put that product into a lower value product. And after a few cycles, let's take plastic, for example, it becomes a PET bottle. And a PET bottle cannot be recycled in eternity. It can only be recycled a few times. And after that, it is put on a landfill, burnt up, or in nature. We need a cure. We don't need the prescription drug for our global economy. We need a remedy. And that is the very little green stripe there, which is remanufacturing. Remake a product to its initial birth state. Remaking products to their birth states, that's remanufacturing. But you need to design a product for that to happen. Today we don't design products. I believe that this is the biggest investment opportunity of our lifetimes. It's only worth 1% of the global manufacturing share of GDP of $45 trillion. So, but how are we going to do this? Well, it's very difficult to knock down the last domino brick. Today, we focus a lot of our attention on targets and aspirations, right? But how in the world are we going to knock down lower climate pollution, net zero, before we start creating that chain reaction or this domino effect? So just to repeat, I believe smart sensors and AI are now starting to create a domino effect, which enables physical manufacturing companies to sell their products as a service. When that happens right now, there is a lifespan incentive coming into the hearts of manufacturing companies. And when we have autonomous factories with humanoid robots in them and renewable materials, you create the economic rationale to have a factory in high-wage countries again. Today, we don't have that economic rationale. We will have that economic rationale in 10 years, which will cause a massive global reshoring of manufacturing capacity again. And then we could change our macroeconomic models, we could change business models, financing models, and so forth. I think I have to skip a few slides here, because otherwise I will not be able to land at this kind of thesis. Sorry about that. The business upside of shifting from selling units to selling service of products is very big, and there are very many multiple reasons for doing that. So I have distilled all of these reasons into 4 categories. The first one is your revenues become more sticky. Your revenues are recurring. And investors like recurring revenues because they are more stable. So you increase the market cap of the company at hand. Recurring revenues increases market capitalization. Then you also become more partner-centric because your incentive as a manufacturing company is to delight your customers often in an iterative process instead of building grandiose models every 2 or 3 years. This is the data we have today. You become more partner-centric. And then you don't even have to own the product, the fixed assets in your balance sheet. And when you don't have to own your equipment in your balance sheet gets slimmer because you pay for the utility of the robot or the equipment because you subscribe to it instead. That makes investors happy because you have less balance sheet, less risk when times go sour, economic times go sour. And you create an incentive change for durability and after a while, renewability. So these are the upsides. And a lot of companies, when I talk to these manufacturing companies, they don't really care about our planet. They don't really care about the climate. But when I start the conversation with this business model will make you more money, which will create an incentive for circularity, then they listen. This is the first time in my whole career where not people listen, but where manufacturing companies really listen because they see the dollar signs. It's not about sustainability, it's about the economics of a company. So access is coming for the physical world. And this is a major change, and I believe that the car will become a pioneering category and a gateway for all the other product categories. Because when a car can drive itself, it enables you not to own the car. You can just press that summon button, it will come to you, and you will ride wherever you want to go. And that goes for both people and products. Autonomous mobility is a hugely underappreciated topic. Autonomous mobility will enable the sharing economy for the very first time. We don't have a sharing economy that is big. It's like 0.1% or something like that of total commerce. Here is an American company that a month ago released their subscription for autonomous mobility for their customers. You can subscribe to full self-driving, but you need to be aware. You need to supervise the computer. Half a year ago, their software was not 98%. Now it's almost 98% or something like that. Now it's good enough for people to subscribe to. And oftentimes, you need a newcomer to shake up an entire industry. Historically, that has been the case. It's very few times where a market goes through a disruption and the dominant players from before continues to be dominant players. It's very seldom. Oftentimes, you need a newcomer. And here is a company that will unveil a new type of vehicle with no steering wheel on the 8th of August. This is probably one of the biggest innovations of human capacity ever. It will be the Tesla robotaxi, and it is a mix of Uber, taxi, and Airbnb. Because when you buy a robotaxi in a few years' time from now, you can rent that taxi out when you're not riding it, so you can become a mobility company. And this company has said this 6-7 years ago. They said Tesla will become a combo of Uber and Airbnb. And a lot of people are not realizing this. But on the 8th of August, a lot of manufacturing companies will realize that, oh wait, this company sells their products to the customers, and the customers can earn a profit, and Tesla will take 25% of that consumer-to-consumer taxi. A lot of other manufacturing companies will realize that this is a major potential. You have Amazon also doing this. You have Google with Waymo doing this. And this is kind of a core message that I have when I talk to a lot of manufacturing companies. Yesterday, I was at Volvo Cars, and I said, Volvo Cars, you should engage in the sharing economy. Because when a product can be moved with very little marginal cost in a seamless application based on the robo-taxi, you unleash the sharing economy, and you change the way we consume physical products for the very first time. But it will also diminish a lot of things. Because when the car can take us where we want to go, we don't have to own the car. We don't have to have a driver's license. I think that will be a thing of the past. We don't have to have a parking space. We don't have to have dealerships. We don't have to have crash. We don't have to die. We don't have to have insurance to dying. And the dead weight is eliminated. We don't have to have as big cars as we have today. And we can eliminate overconsumption. Today we have massive overconsumption. And the car is a vehicle, pun intended, for making overconsumption a thing of the past. But it's also about all other categories, of course. You have bikes, you have even coffee in Stockholm, you have e-scooters, you have boats. But none of this will matter if people do not want to subscribe to physical products. So that's why I started my research journey with a consumer survey. Otherwise, I would not have written the report. People are very open to subscribing to physical products. 52% of consumers in Sweden and in the UK are open to subscribing to physical products. 60% for the car, 50% for white goods, and 38% for food. So this is a very potent, interesting piece of consumer survey. And also, if you only regard the younger generations, those below the age of 40, I'm 36 now, so I consider myself young, so I need to be in that younger category. You need to add 10 to 15%. So you have a tide water profile coming now for the average consumer. And we see this especially for the car. Younger people are open to subscribing to the car more than older people. And we see this for furniture, for vacuum cleaners, for shoes, and for food as well. Food especially. And when it comes to yes answers on the question of would you consider to subscribing to products, you get this chart for 16 product categories. And you have from the car to the washing machine, dishwasher, refrigerator, all the way down to sweaters, paintings, accessories, and shoes. You have a very wide, diverse piece of statistics here. So my conclusion, my interpretation of the data is that products that solve a problem for me, high electronic share of the product, high potential for the product to solve a problem for me, those products are more prone to go usership, while products that we put onto our bodies or in our homes, they kind of have a soul. They don't solve a problem. They populate our lives. They are products for the hearts, while these are products for the brain. And then we have products for the body that we put into our body or onto our body. So this is a piece of statistical analysis that I think is very interesting, and it is the inverse of e-commerce. E-commerce has taken big strides up here, but very low strides here. And the core enabler, again, is AI. Because when we have humanoid robots in a factory, you can put that factory in close proximity to the consumption, because you break the cost arbitrage of low-wage countries that over high-wage countries. I just showed a video on Tesla. Here is Boston Dynamics. It's owned by Hyundai, South Korean company. And then we have Figure AI also. This is a company that was not a company 3 years back, and it's backed by big tech software companies from the United States of America. Microsoft, NVIDIA, Intel, Jeff Bezos himself, OpenAI, and so forth are backing this company. So here we have big techs entering the manufacturing sector for the first time ever. And big tech companies from Silicon Valley are pretty good companies. So manufacturing companies need to be aware of this. This humanoid robot will change a lot of sectors, because when the humanoid robot can walk by itself and can switch arms to a vacuum cleaner, the humanoid robot becomes a general purpose platform for all other sectors. So if you're a manufacturer of a vacuum cleaner today, you will get in competition with humanoid robots, I believe. And humanoid robots is about demographics. We will have billions of humanoid robots. I think that's kind of crazy. And it will enable reshoring. And having manufacturing close to the point of consumption increases the ability to have a circular business model. If you have your factory far away, it's very difficult to create a circular business model. This is a super important topic for the Americans. Here is US Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, a year ago saying reshoring is the next space race for the US. When every product in society has AI chips and AI models and connected data, that becomes a super important thing to have close at heart. Today, we've offshored a lot of the manufacturing to some low-wage countries, but now America wants to take back manufacturing. So this is a super important topic. And the last slide here, sorry, high tempo, but you can read the book afterwards. The last slide depicts my end game scenario for our society. I believe we will have factories in high-wage cities. This is New York City. It has a cloud logo on it. I believe we will have a new type of cloud, a manufacturing cloud, where anybody can log in, create an account, log in, design your car, and make the car from the very close vicinity of your city. So basically what I'm saying here is that when Taylor Swift designs and make a car, all the Swifties will buy that car. So Skoda, Volvo will have a competition from Taylor Swift, and that will be a very difficult thing to master. So the consumers will become the next type of manufacturing companies, just like we've had on YouTube, on X, on Instagram. Anybody can become whatever it is, whatever the sector allows it for. So now I am almost out of breath, and I will land this presentation. And I'm very grateful to being here. I'm sorry I went over time by quite a lot. Here is the QR code for my report. You can check it out here. Thank you very much.